Inside Christianity, there's this idea about grace that sounds so spiritual, so freeing, but honestly, it's quietly and systematically destroying the spiritual strength of so many people.
And here it is. This is the lie. There is no effort in Christ. Now, you've probably heard some version of this, right? It's a really dangerous misconception that just weakens our faith. And what's so important to get is that this idea, it doesn't come from the Bible. It comes from confusion.
So in this explainer, we're going to tear this lie apart. We're going to deconstruct it and uncover a much more powerful biblical truth about how God's grace is actually designed to work in our lives. Okay, here's the core truth we really have to build on. It's simple. Grace is not opposed to effort. It is not the enemy of your spiritual work. Let that sink in for a second. This is the essential question, isn't it? If we've been told our effort gets in the way of grace, but that's not actually true, then what does? What's the one thing that will literally stop the flow of God's power in our lives? And this right here, this clarifies the entire misunderstanding. The Bible never says God gives grace to the passive. In fact, in places like James and 1 Peter, it says the exact opposite. It says God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. So you see, the opposite of grace isn't effort, it's pride.
Okay, so if grace is given to the humble, we have to ask ourselves a pretty serious question. Is humility automatic? Is that our default state? Absolutely not. Pride is what comes naturally. Humility is a choice, and that choice, well, it requires conscious, deliberate effort.
Just think about it for a minute. When your pride just rears up, demanding you defend yourself, and instead, you choose to be silent before God? That's effort. That is the hard work of humility.
Or how about when your flesh is just screaming for recognition, for credit, for anybody to notice what you did, but you choose quiet obedience instead? That's effort. And when your emotions are just raging, wanting to grab the steering wheel and take control, but you intentionally choose to surrender it all to God, that is the effort of humility. It's not about earning your salvation, not at all. It's the work of creating a posture that can actually receive grace.
And if you need more proof, just listen to this pretty shocking statement from the Apostle Paul. He says he labored. He worked harder than anyone. But then he immediately clarifies, it wasn't just him. It was the grace of God powering his labor. See? Grace didn't remove his effort. It completely fueled it. This just completely reframes how we should see grace, doesn't it? It's not some permission slip to just relax and do nothing. It is spiritual energy that empowers us to get up and act.
So let's redefine grace. It's not passive rest. It is an active, empowering force. It's this spiritual energy that finds a person in a humble posture, admitting weakness, admitting need, and says, okay, you're ready. Stand up. I'm going to help you do what you could never, ever do on your own.
And the real tragedy here is how pride, the very thing that blocks grace, can disguise itself in religious language. It sounds like faith when it says, oh, I don't need structure or accountability, I just rest in Jesus. But that isn't faith, that's self-trust.
Humility, on the other hand, speaks a totally different language. It's that honest, raw admission of need. I am weak. I need strength. I need instruction. And you know what? That admission, it costs our ego. It costs us our sense of control. And that cost is the effort that opens the door for grace. So the crucial point is this. The posture of humility, which takes real, gut-level effort to maintain, is the very thing that unlocks the flow of God's grace. This is where genuine, resilient spiritual strength actually comes from. You see, grace isn't random. It follows a sequence of intentional actions. First comes the effort to deny our prideful instincts. Then there's the choice to adopt that humble posture. Next is the action of actually approaching God's throne of grace. And the result of all that? We receive the strength that only He can give. And we have to understand that grace is dynamic. It's not a one-time deposit you get and then forget about. It's a lot more like a spiritual muscle. When we steward it through the effort of humility and obedience, it gets stronger. But when we neglect it through pride and passivity, well, it diminishes.
So let's just put it all together. The lie promises an effort-free Christianity that leads to one place: passivity. It's basically laziness dressed up as theology. But the truth is that an effortful surrender, that conscious choice to adopt a posture of humility, that is what unlocks real divine power.
And that leaves us with a final and maybe a little bit of a challenging question.
I want you to look at your own life, your own heart. Is your understanding of grace producing real spiritual power to live a godly life? Or has it become an excuse for passivity? The answer to that question reveals everything about the posture you've chosen.